My name is Jawanda Marshall, and this is my Learning and Literacy Theories presentation. First, I will begin by explaining the difference between a learning theory and a literacy theory. A learning theory seeks to explain how learning happens. A literacy theory seeks to explain how reading happens. There are two types of literacy theories. One is a top-down literacy theory, and the second is a bottom-up literacy theory. The automatic information processing model is a bottom-up literacy theory explained by David LaBerge and Jay Samuels.
In 1965, LaBerge and Samuels were pulled together by the University of Minnesota to collaborate. LaBerge had already begun work on a machine that tested reading response by showing students words and detecting correct or incorrect responses. LaBerge did not know how the machine could be used in reading instruction, so he came to Samuel, who had previously been a classroom teacher for 10 years, for advice, and the two began discussing the reading process. The two worked together for a year, and as a result, the model of automatic information processing emerged. In this theory, comprehension of a text involves 5 processes. The reading process begins with visual memory. Lines, curves, and angles are used to identify letters. This process eventually becomes automatic, and individual letters are recognized as words through a process called unitization. Once letter recognition becomes automatic, attention is placed on the next process of reading, where information is processed, the phonological memory. It is here that sounds are attached to the visual images or letters. Following phonological memory, a text is processed in the episodic memory, and then finally the semantic memory, where the word is given meaning and stored. The final component of the automatic information processing model is attention. According to LaBerge and Samuels, there are 2 kinds of attention, external and internal. External attention is behavior that can be observed, whereas internal attention is unobservable attention that takes place inside an individual's mind. The image seen here depicts what LaBerge and Samuels referred to as automaticity. Automaticity refers to the ability to perform a task with little attention. LaBerge and Samuels believed that if a student can shift their focus from decoding, then they can place more attention on comprehending the text. They explain that when readers focus their attention between decoding and comprehension of the text is compromised. However, a fluent reader can focus less of their attention on decoding and more comprehension of the text. LaBerge and Samuels' reading model has several implications for classroom practice. First, students should be using level text and also rereading text. When students are grouped based on their reading ability, they are more likely to grow as readers. Also, by rereading text, less attention is placed on decoding and more on comprehension of the text. Also, there should be heavy emphasis on phonics instruction and sight words. As students' phonics skills grow and their sight word knowledge increases, so does their reading comprehension. The automatic information processing model can serve as a method of diagnosis and intervention for all learners. The model explains problems that students encounter when reading related to phonics, vocabulary, and comprehension. If a student is struggling to comprehend a text, then there may be an issue related to phonics, where the student is placing too much attention on decoding words. A student may also struggle with comprehension issues related to vocabulary. This can be due to Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 vocabulary, which in turn affects comprehension of the text. Technology can assist in improving the effectiveness of the automatic information processing model. First, technology is very adaptive. It meets individual learners where they are, and students can move at their own pace. Second, technology is very motivating. Students tend to be more engaged when they are using technology. Whether they are playing a game or reading a book, technology proves to be very motivating to students. Third, technology gathers and processes data. This lessens the workload of the teacher and also pinpoints strengths and weaknesses of the student. Finally, technology is available at all times and meets the diverse needs of students by adding visual, video, or audio when needed. Here, you see all the ways that technology can be integrated into the automatic information processing model. Technology can be integrated into phonics, vocabulary, and comprehension. The next portion of this presentation will focus on literacy theories. The first is a top-down literacy theory presented by Richard C. Anderson, known as schema theory. Schema refers to the knowledge and the way it is organized in the mind. Schema theory has an extensive background, originating in 1926 from the work of Piaget, moving to 1932 with work from British psychologist Frederick Bartlett. In 1984, Richard Anderson, along with David Pearson, expanded upon the work of these previous theorists and provided an explanation for how prior knowledge might influence the acquisition of new knowledge in education and the implications of schema to reading instruction. Richard C. Anderson graduated from Harvard University. He has served as a teacher, school administrator, and an assistant superintendent of schools. He has published over 200 books and articles and was elected to the National Academy of Education and the Reading Hall of Fame. In 1984, he published A Schema-Theoretic View of Basic Processes in Reading with David Pearson. Anderson and Pearson believe that readers have two types of schemata, one for reading processes and the other for text structure. Their theory suggests that readers use previous reading skills such as decoding, inferring, and summarizing that aid in comprehension. Also, readers may have schema for one genre of text over another. An essential part of the schema theory is that schemata changes over time. Schema may change based on three processes: accretion, tuning, and restructuring. Schema theory has had a major impact on reading instruction and has many classroom application. The whole premises of schema theory is understanding that students come with background knowledge. Activating and building a student's background knowledge before learning can mean the difference in comprehending and not comprehending. This can be done by brainstorming, using KWL charts, group discussions, making predictions, reviewing the text, and the use of semantic maps. The amount of schemata a student has can greatly affect their learning. Students need differentiation, whether they are a part of general education, struggling learners, gifted, or special education. They all come with different levels of understanding on how to read and write. Schema theory recognizes the role that culture and experience play in creating an individual's knowledge. English language learners may not have background knowledge on certain topics, or their beliefs may cause a different interpretation of the text. This may cause issues with comprehension and should be addressed. These students may also lack in the area of linguistic schema. Linguistic schema refers to the knowledge about vocabulary and grammar.
Here you can see how the two literacy theories relate and differ. Both theories seek to explain the act of reading. Both can also serve as a diagnosis or intervention. The schema theory is a top-down literacy theory, whereas the automatic information processing model is a bottom-down literacy theory. The schema theory focuses on comprehension of a text through what is already known about the text, whereas the automatic information processing model says that comprehension of a text is based on decoding, word recognition, and vocabulary.
In an attempt to explain how children learn, there are learning theories. Today I will focus on John Dewey and his theory of inquiry learning. John Dewey was born in Burlington, Vermont in 1859. He grew up in an evangelical Christian home where his mother worked hard to instill her Christian values and practices into John. As John got older, he later rejected the faith. He began his educational career earning a bachelor's degree from the University of Vermont in 1879 and a PhD from the Johns Hopkins University in 1884. Dewey began his work at a time when behaviorism was at its peak. Dewey challenged this theory with his view of learning as a natural process that emphasized the growth of the individual, the importance of the environment, and the role of the teacher in the student's learning. He argued that rather than the child being a passive recipient of knowledge, as was presumed by many educators of the time, children were better served if they took an active part in the process of their own learning. According to Tracy and Morrow, inquiry learning was designed first and foremost to produce involved citizens capable of successfully participating in and contributing to a democratic society. Today, the theory of inquiry learning is still practiced in classrooms pre-K through 12th grade around the world. Dewey envisioned and emphasized the importance of learning by doing. 21st century learners need to be working collaboratively, using critical thinking skills and problem solving in order to be successful in today's society. First, experiences in the classroom should be designed in order to lead to independent learning experiences. This means that the student should be discovering new knowledge by being active participants rather than sitting and absorbing what the teacher is saying. Learning in the classroom should be student-centered, with the teacher acting as the facilitator. Second, students should be working collaboratively. This can be done by designing experiences where students can work together to learn from one another. Next, material should be relevant and keep students interested. This can be done by giving students choice and/or connecting what the students are learning to the real world. Inquiry learning can be used in all content area and is for all grade levels and learners. It supports the natural curiosity of students and promotes critical thinking skills. The theory of inquiry learning meets the needs of all learners, whether it be struggling learners, students a part of general education, or special education students. Inquiry learning leads to a natural differentiation where students move at their own pace and collaborate. For ELL students, where there may be language barriers, inquiry learning works to encourage their natural curiosity. These students are also able to move at their own pace and also have a chance to collaborate and learn from others. Gifted students are more likely to remain engaged and are also encouraged to learn at their own rate. Today, inquiry learning is more commonly known as project-based learning. Project-based learning is an instructional strategy in which students work collaboratively in groups to create a project, task, presentation, and more. Project-based learning is very student-centered, encourages critical thinking skills, and gives students skills to become lifelong learners. Inquiry learning brings about the question, should teachers teach content or turn students loose to figure out things on their own? Believe it or not, there is a balance. Teachers need to let go of control and embrace the freedom, let go of content and embrace the processes, let go of avoiding discomfort and struggle and embrace them. For some content areas or some topics, the best choice may be just to teach it. Some topics cannot be taught. Students need to be learning these things through trial and error and discovery. This is where inquiry-based learning makes its peak. Technology is extremely important to inquiry learning. Inquiry learning is based on the premises that students learn through discovery, and so technology promotes and supports inquiry-based learning. Technology also promotes multimodal learning. Today, students need to become more familiar with various methods of studying, learning, and remembering new information.